Welcome to the Extreme season on Film 4. Tonight, it's Fight Club, David Fincher's stylish and visually innovative adaptation of Chuck Palahniuk's punchy novel, which is now considered to be a modern classic, but which provoked cries of "ban this filth" back in 1999 amidst claims that it contained dangerously instructive information which could encourage antisocial behaviour. Palahniuk says he first came up with the idea for Fight Club, the first rule of which is you do not talk about Fight Club, after getting beaten up on a camping trip when he complained about the noise of someone's radio. Back at work, he was struck that no one commented on his cuts and bruises, concluding that to do so would involve a social interaction of which they were either too scared or too uncaring to partake. Fascinated by this societal blocking, he started working on a story about an underground society in which everyone fights and no one talks about it. Ever.
You do not talk about Fight Club.
Unlike many successful authors, Palahniuk was not in the least bit precious about his creation and has gone on record praising Fincher's film of Fight Club for improving upon his novel. The screenplay chores, for which graduate author Buck Henry was once considered, were ultimately handled by Jim Uhls, with a lot of input from Ed Norton and David Fincher, both of whom had some intense negotiations with the studio over the more provocative content of the film. Quite apart from the obvious irony of a studio allowing a filmmaker to spend $70 million of their money making what is essentially an anarchic anti-materialist tract, the levels of violence alarmed executives from the outset, while Fincher was concerned that the film wasn't violent enough, telling some journalists that he thought it ought to be called Glee Club rather than Fight Club. Tussles with the censors inevitably ensued, with Fincher reportedly delivering deliberately OTT fight scenes in order to give the studio and the American Ratings Board plenty to cut. Here in the UK, the BBFC concluded that the film taken as a whole was quite clearly critical and sharply parodic of the amateur fascism which it portrayed, although they still found the need to cut 4 seconds from scenes of excessively sustained violence, cuts which have since been reinstated. In the period before it opened, Fight Club became embroiled in press stories about the Columbine massacre, after which its release was delayed. And a few years later, the 9/11 attacks suddenly made its serio-comic themes of terrorism, destruction and amateur bomb-making seem all the more incendiary. According to Fincher, the real meaning of Fight Club, with its complex tapestry of visceral physical action, toxic verbal assaults and near-subliminal flash-frame imagery, is psychic violence. It's saying you're a fraud and you should know it. From here, Fincher went on to garner Oscar nominations for Benjamin Button and The Social Network, and most recently to helm a flashy, if rather irrelevant, remake of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. But for me, it's films like Seven, Zodiac and Fight Club which remain his most exciting works. Visually inventive, thematically rich and unashamedly in your face. Just don't talk about it.